A border that's barely there. This is South Africa's northern boundary, a meager wire fence. Its first defense of sovereignty as its citizens rage against illegal immigration. So this is the border fence, and this is no man's land, dividing South Africa from Zimbabwe. And people are clearly moving between the two very easily. How are you?
I'm fine.
Are you coming from Zim?
Yes.
When did you come? So it's very casual. People just seem to be coming and going as they please. The Limpopo River runs dry up to 8 months of the year. An easy crossing for people and goods, moving in and out of Zimbabwe, unhampered by border patrols.
I'm crossing illegal because there's no border here. I'm not afraid to say this.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say this. I'm crossing illegal here because there's no immigration or whoever. You can't stop someone suffering. They have to find any means to come find food.
A few miles from the border are shelters housing those that made it across. This one, for women and children, is full of stories of desperation and despair.
To just do something, I will go. But if I don't have anything, I'll stay.
How are you feeling right now?
My life is too tough. It's very difficult.
For some, the crossing isn't so easy. Entrapped by smugglers promising a better life. This 14-year-old girl was trafficked here with her sisters 2 years ago and hasn't seen them since.
I've gone through a lot, like they will pass through, people were robbing people. Some of them were taken away and some of them were raped. And then I ended up living here in this shelter.
On the floor.
Men too are battered and bruised as they pass through shelters, on their way to South Africa's big cities looking for work. For many, Johannesburg is the goal. The city of gold known for its mining. Now a trap of poverty and persecution. This is rare access into one of Johannesburg's hijacked buildings. This used to be a hospital and now it's home to hundreds of people who can't afford to live anywhere else. It is decrepit, it's falling apart, there's rubbish everywhere. This is not a livable situation. So do you drink from this water?
People drink from this. People use this water for everything.
There's life in these corridors, children spilling out of the small rooms.
Hey, boys.
But other corridors, burnt and blackened, speak to the death that's come from this destitution.
3 kids died in here. Some of the community tried to somehow rescue or switch the fire, put the fire off with buckets and everything. As you saw, our water supply is very slow, so we couldn't make it in time. So there's a kid that died holding this bucket like this.
But for some foreigners who make it here, there's little other choice. So you'd rather be in this hijacked building than be back home in Zimbabwe?
For the meantime, because if I go back home, there's nothing that I'll be doing.
This is the place for those who have nowhere else to go.
Human rights attorney Nomzamo Zondo has represented the residents of 120 unlawfully occupied buildings. She says undocumented immigrants are being blamed for conditions here in the inner city after walking through open borders.
The call, I think, has to be one that says, once you are here, how do we make sure that you are regularized here, that you know who you are and you contribute to this economy? And therefore, we actually need to have a conversation around what we do to fix the country, as opposed to thinking that just simply pushing out, hating, hurting our African brothers will help us.
There's a growing call for the mass deportation of illegal immigrants, a rallying cry here in Soweto. Once a fringe xenophobic witch hunt, Operation Dudula has become an organized movement with increasing support.
Many people here, they don't work, and the illegals are working. and of which is not fair to the South Africans.
So when the modern South African state was made in 1994, Mandela was felt strongly about having open borders, about welcoming Africans from across the continent. What do you think about that?
I think that is the highest level of sellout. You can't, when South Africans were in exile, they were in camps, and they were restricted to go to other part of those countries. So why do you allow foreigners to go all over in South Africa and run business and make girlfriends? And I mean, South Africans, they can't even have their own girlfriends because the foreigners have taken over the girlfriend space.
From the girlfriend space to the employment space, pressure is on the authorities to arrest and deport undocumented people, even on a Thursday morning on their way to work. So what happened here?
He doesn't have any document. We ask him to give us proof of identification. He doesn't have. We ask him if he has an ID. He doesn't have any ID. He has never had one. He was born in Zimbabwe.
How are you feeling inside this truck?
I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. I'm not afraid.
Obviously, it's too late. You don't want someone to enter the country illegally. You want the system to function in a way that this doesn't happen in the first place. But I think it is important to send a message out there that we do take this problem seriously, and we are motivated by the rule of law.
South Africa's flawed system has become a trap for foreigners striving for a better life, walking in and being deported out. Yousra Elbagir, Sky News, South Africa.